Debuting in 2005 for $899, the Canon Rebel TX sought to give DSLR technology to the masses. Now if you're watching this to gauge whether this is a good photo camera or not, yes, it is. Given good enough lighting, give it a half-decent lens, and it'll put in work for a good price. But what is it actually like to use the Canon Rebel TX in the age of mirrorless technology? Well, it's an older DSLR, meaning you have to slow down with each shot. Because unlike new mirrorless cameras that let you see the final image in real time from any angle, you've got to compose your shot with a viewfinder and a light meter. But this is typically a good thing. Hear me out. Those few seconds it took you to slow down and take a few test shots allow you to reflect on your composition and catch an error or two. Photography doesn't have to be stressfully fast. The TX ensures you remember that. And as far as portability goes, it's a very compact camera, which is good. But the grip isn't, especially if you have large hands. But this isn't a very serious camera, and you shouldn't be holding it so seriously anyway. It was originally sold as a hobbyist camera, remember? Now, as far as the actual photos go, I find the resolution and bit depth the TX produces to be plenty of information to edit with. Despite 8 megapixels sounding low, it's still a fine image. The autofocus is also pretty snappy using my 50mm. In low light, it really struggles and hunts, but hey, that's what manual focus is for, right? And if you're interested in getting that retro look, the built-in flash may give you exactly what you want. The early 2000s paparazzi style has been a resurgence lately, so actually, the TX has benefited from its aged body. And using a physical viewfinder, after being accustomed to an electric one, has also been a treat. There's no lag. It's not a digital representation of light, it's actually what the lens is seeing. But there is a disadvantage that you could only notice after using an electric one for so long. And it's that there's no focus peak. Oftentimes I doubt myself if I actually hit focus. And I certainly can't hit a zoom in button and check either, though it's good practice with focusing, so I really can't complain. The TX only having 7 focus points hasn't been a drawback for me. In fact, I normally just leave it on center weighted focus, so it only references that center little dot and focuses from there. If my subject isn't center, then I focus up and I reframe. It's not hard and it's pretty reliable. Residing inside the viewfinder is one of your most important tools while shooting on the TX, the light meter. I mentioned it earlier. Understanding it well will be the key to properly exposed images. I found mine to be calibrated pretty well, though it is a bit eager to blow out the highlights in a heavily contrasting image. But if you want reassurance of the image you just took, you can also instantly view the photo you've taken with a histogram beside it, revealing if you truly hit exposure. Speaking of that little screen, it lets you change settings and view photos on your card, and that's really it. No live view, no Bluetooth setup, but what more could you really want from a photo-only camera from 2005? And just above it, the LCD display also gives you duplicate information from the viewfinder with a bit more added, such as white balance, shutter release, and file type. I also really appreciate this orange little light. I've never used it in a practical setting. It's cute though, you know? You see? It's good. Despite what that helpful orange light might suggest, the TX doesn't like dim locations. It'll quickly produce grain at any ISO above 100. The images are still usable, but think twice before you make up a stop or two of light using just ISO. And with modern AI denoise tools, some of the shortcomings of this camera has actually been remedied. Because of this, the TX has actually gotten better with age. Batteries for the TX are also easy to come by nowadays. I'm using a third-party one that came with a charger for about $12. Does it last as long as the first-party ones? Maybe. I've never actually used this battery even to halfway. I only use it for short burst sessions and never for anything serious. It's never died randomly, so that's worth something. Storage media the TX uses is also very much obsolete. CF cards, not CF Express cards, are a bit overpriced for the amount of data they can hold, and you'd have to have a CF card reader to get the photos off of it. So I opted for an adapter and the cheapest SD card I could buy. It all costed, again, $12-15. Nothing really pushing the budget here. The TX uses Canon's EF mount, meaning if you're a video maker with a Blackmagic, you probably already have compatible lenses. And if you don't, you're in luck, because EF mount glass comes really cheap nowadays. You can get a very good 51.8 for under $70. And if you want to dabble in vintage glass, you can adapt those with a $8 or so adapter, and those could be even cheaper. Once again, this camera has benefited from its age. There's not a plethora of glass options for it, and most of it is affordable, if not cheap. Canon Rebel TX is a good photo camera that does its job well. It has its drawbacks, but it is a joy to use. And it might be hard to believe, but this camera certainly has gotten better with age. If you have the opportunity to buy a Rebel TX, you should. Whether it's your first camera or you want a smaller travel camera, it'll put in good work for a good price. Do you think older DSLRs are worth the trouble? I certainly think they're worth the price. Thanks for watching.